Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlyn Mosher Ellis, Executive Director of Find the Cause Breast Cancer Foundation, and welcome to our podcast, Finding the Cause. I am delighted to welcome back Dr. David Sherr, who is the director of our research consortium, and he today is going to be talking a lot more specifically about the research getting funded by Find the Cause, what is the work that they're doing, and what is the hope for the future. So with that, I welcome Dr. David Sherr. David, so welcome back to the podcast and delighted to have you here today.
Thanks. Pleasure being here, Caitlyn.
Great. So you lead the Foundation's Consortium of Scientists, which is a very unique part of our mission and of the work that's there. It differentiates Find the Cause Breast Cancer Foundation from so many other nonprofit organizations across the country. So can you talk a little bit about the composition of the Scientific Research Consortium and how you're tackling the issue of breast cancer and coming at it from a standpoint of prevention?
Yeah, sure. So we've gathered a select group of scientists in a kind of a organization that's similar to the NIH's program project, which means that you get select people who have specific expertise in complementing areas. So we now have 7 of us in this group, and we have some things in common, and we look at things in some distinct ways. So, for example, everyone within the group knows immunology, knows cancer biology, but each member brings something different into the group. And the reason for doing that is things move so fast, and you need to have such a wide range of expertise to understand what's going on in cancer that you need people that can represent various areas, from let's say building models of human cancers to doing computational learning models on computers. So that's the idea behind having the consortium.
That's great. And I think it's so interesting in this collaboration model that you've put together and have directed all these years. Can you dive a little bit into 1 or 2 of the exciting things that are going on in the labs right now?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to prioritize because it's all exciting. When you get people of this caliber together, everybody's got ideas and they're all exciting. So I'll try to boil it down to the essence. So, for example, in one of the laboratories, in Charlotte Cooperwasser's lab, what she's been able to do is to develop a model system of human breast development. So she actually takes single cells from breast tissue, from breast reduction surgeries, and puts them into tissue cultures, feeds them with a soup of things that they like, and then watches as this single cell begins to grow into what would have become a functional breast organ. And you can see the various changes that during this whole process, and it's an amazing process to watch on video. She's been adding in various chemicals that we suspect contribute to cancer. So, for example, things people may have heard about, these endocrine disruptors, which are environmental chemicals that unfortunately have a biologic activity. And when she puts those into these systems, you can see into this organ culture, you can see in 3 dimensions how that organ culture changes. Now you bring in experts like Stefano Monti and Bob Varelis, and what they do is look at the molecular changes that happen in there, in addition to Charlotte's just visual changes. And the molecular changes, the amount of information you get is enormous. You get terabytes of information. You get, humans have 20,000 genes, and you see how maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of them change, or their expression changes, when you add these chemicals in. That amount of data, as a human, you can't look at it and parse it all apart. So Stefano Monti, who's a computational biologist, takes those numbers, puts them into algorithms, and then begins to see patterns. And what you get out is a profile of what happens when you expose human tissue to these environmental chemicals. Then you can try to overlap that signal or those profiles into what we know cancers look like. And you can tell then whether or not that chemical is driving this organoid model towards a full-blown cancer. Now, on the other end of the scale, there's immunologists like me and Fran Quintana that look at how the immune system is going to respond to this. And Fran has a couple of candidates that can boost the immune system to fight off these cancers. As I mentioned, pretty much everybody's had cancer. By the time they're 40 or 50, immune system fights them off. So he has models in which he can kick up the immune system and try to block formation of these types of cancers. Bob Varelis is an expert in aging, As you know, probably know that as you get older, you have an increased risk of breast cancer, with some exceptions. And that's in part because the immune system gets tired and because other systems that normally control how cells work start to go awry. And what Bob's expertise is in what happens during aging. So he looks at young animals versus old animals and looks at the difference in how these chemicals can affect the process of this malignant transformation. And what he found is that they don't work as well in young animals as they do in old animals. So we're bringing in age as a factor in the breast cancer. One of the other members, Vicky Seawalt, who is the chair of one of the departments in the City of Hope in Los Angeles. She's a clinician, an MD clinician. She sees breast cancer patients all the time. And her expertise is looking at populations of women who are exposed to heavy metals. And what she's showing is that exposure to these kinds of chemicals, which you can get from drinking water, for example, that increases your risk of breast cancer. So she's tracking that along the whole time process. She has a cohort of women that she's tracked over many years. And women who didn't have cancer, she tracked them as they developed cancer and then tried to correlate that with exposure to these chemicals. And she's finding a real connection there. In a similar way, Jess Ubelacher, who's at the Harvard School of Public Health, has access to tissue and blood samples from the Nurses' Health Study. So if you've not heard of the Nurses' Health Study, it's an unbelievable study that started in 1976. And it's taken tissue samples from women for the last, 50 years or so, about 50 years. And again, she can look at changes that happen in the blood from when women didn't have cancer to when they did have cancer. And what she's looking for is these markers that come up before the women actually got cancer. The types of markers she's looking at are called metabolites. So this is about how cancers metabolize certain nutrients. And cancers do things a little bit different than normal cells, so you can identify the presence of these cancers by a change in what metabolites end up in the blood circulation. That's an unbelievable resource, as is Vicky's cohorts from actually North Carolina, that can track women before, during, and after they have cancer and correlate that with exposure to various chemicals. So there's a lot of collaboration going on between all of these individuals. The computational biology by Stefano Monti is involved in all of this because we get terabytes of data. We want to find patterns. Everybody works together. Everybody helps each other. Everybody has unique resources that other people can access. For example, Fran Quintana, who's at Harvard Medical School and the Brigham and Women's Hospital, has access to multi-million-dollar machinery that can do some of these experiments for us. Stefano and Fran Quintana are also associate members of the MIT and Harvard Broad Institute in Cambridge. The Broad Institute has a lot of money that can be used to generate lots of data. They have robotics that you can do experiments rapidly with. So I'm bringing that up just as an example how not only is there complementation between everyone's expertise, but there's complementation between what resources, what equipment, what types of technologies become available. The day of one lab going it by itself, a mom and pop lab is over. Things move too quickly. You have to do this kind of collaboration to access the technologies that now seem to appear every 3 or 4 or 5 months. Not unlike computational technologies that keep developing.
Right. And it's so powerful to see that level of collaboration, especially addressing something so important as breast cancer and prevention. So talk to me a little bit about what a game changer it must have been for Dr. Cooper-Wasser's lab to be able to grow breast tissue and introduce carcinogens in live time.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing system. I don't think there's another model like that in the world. And the only reason it exists is because she was able to use the funds from Find the Cause to take a chance, to not just do this incremental advance, which we're used to doing, but to sort of take a chance, see if you can make a big leap and get somewhere. If she had written a grant to the NIH and said, I want to build this new model, and here are the 25 ways I'm going to try it, it would never have been funded. but it was doable because of the funds from Find the Cause. So we have this unique resource only existing because of Find the Cause Breast Cancer Foundation, and now we're using it among all of the other 5 laboratories in the consortium. So it's, I don't like to say the word game changer, but it's kind of special.
And so when you talk about the impact that our donors have had through Find the Cause in funding the science directly in the research, how far of an advancement do you think the Find the Cause has brought the science? What kind of impact does the organization have?
I think it's made a big impact. I mean, the idea of even getting 6 scientists together now to do work is, there's what we would call activation energy. You got to put a lot into it to get it to happen. But with Find Cause money, we've been able to do that. And I'll also, I don't want to shortchange the outreach and the education part. Again, we're out there in the public as well. We're not just publishing papers where other geeks like us can see it. We're out there in the public trying to inform people, this is what happens when you're exposed to these 5 chemicals or however many you want to talk about. So I do believe we've made a difference there. We have made people's lives healthier. We don't know who they are, but we know it's people that have been listening to what Find the Cause has been saying for a while. That stuff, just wouldn't have been possible without Find the Cause.
Well, and to that end, for any more information about the scientists and keeping current with the scientific research that's being going on and changes all the time, our website at findthecausebcf.org is a great resource to learn more about the individual researchers, but we also publish their papers and their journals there. So anybody who wants to dive a little further into the research that's going on, that's certainly a great place to find it. And we look forward to having each of the researchers on this podcast to talk specifically about the work that they're doing. I have to say that this has been a fascinating conversation, and thank you so much for sharing your insights into the work that's going on, and also for your dedication to prevention. And I think that that's it's so different than early detection, and this is really looking upstream before a cancer starts to form or intervening when a cancer starts. And a world that has that opportunity would be a different place. So I'm going to ask you the question that we are going to ask all of our guests, is that when I say breast cancer prevention, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means I can worry less about my daughter going through the same experience as my wife. That's enough motivation for anybody.
And that's such a beautiful sentiment. And I appreciate all of your dedication and work for getting to that end goal, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, Dr. Sherr, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate your dedication and your work. And I ask everybody out there who's listening, follow us on social media, and you can go to our website for more information on any of our researchers or the current work that's being done that Find the Cause is funding. It's really exciting time right now, and I can't wait to see who's coming up next on Finding the Cause. Thanks so much.